Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lisa Elvin Stoltari, and I am a genealogist and a passionate traveler. This is Have Roots, Will Travel. Over the last several years or so, I've been focusing my attention on telling the stories of les filles du roi, the king's daughters, and getting to know them a little bit better. But before we begin, let's find ways that you can help the channel and really support it. We have subscribe, like, and notify. All of that helps my logarithms and all that good stuff. And then we have a couple of ways where you can help truly make the channel grow. We have Super Thanks, which is part of the YouTube program. Thank you to YouTube. Once I reached 1,000 subscribers, thank you to all of you. They permitted me to do that. And then I have Coffee and Patreon, both of which are mediums, and I've put the links in there as well. And on my website, Have Roots Will Travel, there's another way for you to just do a PayPal, simple PayPal. So thank you to all of you who have supported me thus far. Let's get started and get to know our visual of this episode. This episode is episode 203, and it is featuring Marie Debure. And she is not a fille du roi that is recognized by the current Programme de Recherche. Um, and one of the reasons is because they have a very strict criteria of who's a fille du roi and who's not. As I've told you before, whether or not they are or were or that sort of thing, I'm going along the lines of she once was listed as it. She is part of the Peter J. Gagne, which I really base my series on. And so I'm going to tell her story. She's a visual to me. So let's get started and get to know her a little bit better. And as I've said, she is a viewer request. I did not have her in my file, so she was interesting to get to know. He was born in 1653 in Rouen, in the region of Normandy, and in the département of Seine-Maritime. Now, Rouen is a very large city. We are not so obviously it has a great deal of history. It's easy to find. However, we don't know which parish she was from. There are three documents that tell us l'Église Maclou, Saint-Sauveur, and Saint-Laurent. Now, the Church of Saint Sauveur existed in 1060, so it is extremely possible that this was the church that she would have attended. Um, Her parents were Vincent Debure and Suzanne Gonnet. Now you can see on your left hand of your screen, you can see a picture of Rouen. This is the center town, if you will. And then you also have the river that flows through it. A picture of one of the churches, just to give you that feel. It is an extremely historic town. Anyone who's ever, been there or read about it, it is at one time, it was the largest city in medieval Europe, and it played a prominent role in both English and French histories from the 11th to the 15th century. Joan of Arc was tried and burned alive here in 1431. There's a statue of her in that area, and we also have. Rouen is a city of cultural and educational significance and has so many universities. It really was uh, a powerful, powerful player in that medieval. So if you were from Rouen, as she was, this is part of who you are. That strength of coming from a larger place. And what's interesting, just a little tidbit, this is the area that the Statue of Liberty sailed from in 1883, I think it was. And, they, 1885 actually, it sailed to New York City from Rouen. So, these are connections to the New World. So the voyage to New France for Marie would take her on the Jean-Baptiste Dieppe. She arrived in Quebec on June 18th, 1665. And this is after her father's death. Now, Marie came to Canada with her sister Suzanne, her brother-in-law Louis Lefebvre de Battenville, and her niece Antoinette. Guess what? This is what disqualified her as being a true fille du roi, because a true fille du roi had to be independently, kind of on her own, not attached, not coming over with a family, and all of that. So that is why later on, she has been taken off that role. But again, we still think of her as an important part of our Fiji history. That would select her and who she would select. His name was Gilles Hénard, and he was born in 1636 in Albany-les-Marais in France. His parents were Pierre Hénard and Hilaire Giroux. Now you can see on the map that he is part of the Nouvelle-Aquitaine region, and his département, his county, if you will, is Charente-Maritime. This is the church in Albany-les-Marais that he would have been baptized in. It is a very small farming community with a little over 2,000 people. So he's coming from a very different place than Marie. So that's always interesting to contrast. So they were married in Quebec City on October 6th, 1665. You remember I said that she arrived in June. So a couple of months, um, after she arrived, she was able to, secure her groom, if you will. Family would settle at Charlebourg, which is, as you can see on the map, um, just really, really part of the Quebec City, you know, region. It was at one time its own separate city. And what makes it really, really interesting to study is if you look on the upper left, you'll see that we have Charlebourg, Bourg-Royal, and Petite-Auvergne. Charlebourg is actually, these were created in 1665 by Jacques Talon. He wanted to establish a different kind of place. And before that, it was just your basic seigneurie, and it was run by the Jesuits. And but Jean Talon saw in this area possibly a way to make his mark. So you can see how the little tiny squares in the middle, you know what they are? They are the church, and all of the lands and all of the houses point to the church. It's the only area. There's one place in Manitoba that is designed like this, like in a star-shaped pattern. And in the bottom of your screen, that's an overview from the 1960s, an aerial shot. It still looks exactly the same. So it was kind of his way of maybe having control over the population, with the church being really, you couldn't go anywhere without seeing it. And this is a picture of the Church Saint Charles de Borromée. Um, this is what it looks like now. Obviously, on your right is a depiction from 1696, closer to what it would have looked like in the time of Marie. Their only child, Marie, would pass away in infancy. So Gilles would pass away at the age of 30. He died between September and December of 1666. He and Marie had been married just a little over a year, if that. Now, Marie had buried a child and a husband. What was to become of her? Can you imagine? She's alone in a strange place. She comes from Auray, and she's, kind of abandoned everything, and now she finds herself in distress. The second groom that shows up is Jean Bernard Litrange, and he was born in 1643, a little younger than Marie. He was born in the commune of Thionville, which is from the Grand Est region, and you can see on the map it's really, really to the I'm not good with my west or my east, but you can see it's on the right hand of France. And then inside of the Grand Est is the département Moselle, and that is the county that his little town would have been found in. It's actually not so little. The city is located on the left bank of that river. It's part of the former Lorraine provinces, which border Germany, Luxembourg, and Belgium. There are at least 40,000 people who live there. This is the church that Jean would have been baptized in, the church at Thionville, and this is what the current or modern day Thionville looks like. It's got that influence of Germany, Luxembourg, and Belgium, so it's got, and the France. So that would be so interesting to visit. Remember that I told you her first husband died between September and December. The reason we know that is December 27th, 1666. That's when she remarried her second husband. The family would go on to have 9 children. The first, Marie Madeleine, would die in infancy. Louis would die after the 1681 census. Nicolas would marry Marie Thérèse Bruno and have one child who made it to adulthood. Angélique would marry Jacques Boutin and would have two children who made it to adulthood. Charles would marry Geneviève Martin and have seven children, three of whom would make it. Jean married Marie Barbeau and had two children, one of whom made it to adulthood before his early death at 37. Then we have Marie-Madeleine, who married Robert Vernet and had four children, three of whom made it to adulthood. Marianne would marry Jacques Brunel and have 10 children, eight of whom would make it. And then finally, Jeanne would marry Pierre Brousseau, and she would have six children, all of whom would make it to adulthood. Seeing how Marie had to deal with tragedy early on, well, 31 years later, her husband Jean was found frozen on the riverbank. He was on his way for medical treatment in Quebec. He was buried February 15th, 1698, at Champlain. He and Marie would have been married 31 years that year. He would pass away less than 3 years later, dying at the Quebec hospital. Remember that Jean's the name was Anse or Danse. And so when I was able to find this, I wasn't able to find an actual burial record, but this is her. And she died on the 11th of October. And she left 111 descendants. As always, I love to give you more information about the resources that you can use. One of them that I've been really excited about is La Société d'Histoire des Filles du Roi. Please have a look at that website. I put all of the links down below. If there are any websites you'd like me to feature, please do so, and I will definitely incorporate them into my work. But all of these are extraordinary for working on your Filles du Roi ancestry. And so we end episode 203 of Marie Debure. She was truly a woman of substance to have endured the kind of loss, the loss of her first child, the loss of her first husband, to carry on and have 9 more children, lose a few more, and then lose that second husband in the most tragic of ways, bespeaks a strength and a determination that I've never seen. So very courageous lady, really strong. And we are ever so grateful that she came to our shores and contributed to the tapestry that is Nouvelle France and all of the history and all of the families that she left behind. By the 1729, they had 111 descendants. Who knows how many descendants from this one remarkable woman. So thank you, Marie. And I also want to say thank you to my patrons and supporters. I couldn't do this without you. You keep me going. So I really, really want to say thank you to all of you. And with that, I will bid you adieu until I see you on the next episode. Until then, au revoir.